Hi, my name is John Blair and I'm going to show you how to set up an Umbraco application on Azure via Devops. The agenda for this video then is we'll take a look at the application architecture in terms of dev, test and live setup. We'll take a look at the Azure configuration as it hosts the test and live web apps. We'll then take a look at the Devops setup in terms of build and release pipelines, as Devops is used to build the website on a continuous integration basis from a GitHub repo. It will then take care of releasing that build to a test web app and a live web app environment, both on Azure. Devops also has additional pipelines that take care of releasing content from test to live and vice versa. The content releases are in terms of copying the database in its entirety from test to live and vice versa, and also copying the media folder, so it's full content release both from test to live and live to test. Finally, we'll finish up with a demo whereby we make a small content change, save it into the GitHub repo and see how continuous integration build is triggered, and also the build is deployed to both test and live. The diagram on screen shows the overall architecture for the application. We develop on the local PC against IIS using a SQL Server database. We store our code and source control, a GitHub repo. We use Devops then to automate the build and the release process to the Azure test and live websites. Devops also has pipelines for releasing content between test and live environments. The content is released by copying the SQL Server databases and moving media folders between the environments. The Azure environment itself will host the test web app and the live web app, and also the SQL Server databases that are used in the test and the live environments. This is the setup on Azure then. What we have is a resource group for the live web app, which is John Blair, and we have a resource group for the test web app, which is John Blair Test. The live resource group will have an app service configured within it, in this case John Blair, and that app service will contain a web app, which is John Blair. The John Blair Test resource group again will have John Blair Test app service, which will have a John Blair Test web app. Now, both of these web applications use SQL databases for the Umbraco content. There's a SQL resource group which contains all the databases used for all the web apps. So you'll find that this resource group has got a SQL Server instance named John Blair, and that will have a database for the live environment and a database for the test environment. Having all the databases within the one SQL Server and within the one resource group facilitates copying, transferring media between test and live and vice versa, as there's no need to go beyond a single subscription. If we take a look at the live web app, we'll find that there are some local configuration settings that we make use of. The Umbraco core, local storage, local temp storage, and the Umbraco examine Lucene directory factory. These two settings are crucial to making sure that on Azure, Umbraco uses the local hard disk of the machine for temp files rather than network drive. If this is not the case, then if Azure decides to move your app onto a new machine, you could potentially find file locking issues on the new cache, as both machines might try to refer to the same file. Using these two settings helps avoid that. The third one that currently helps avoid locking issues is website disable overlapped recycling. This unusual setting is actually used to ensure that only one W3WP process is ever used at any one time. So for instance, on Azure, whenever you update the configuration section, Azure tends to spin up a new W3WP process to action those config changes. And what you find without this setting, Umbraco quite often will give you a file violation accessing the new cache database, because both W3WP processes will be accessing the file at the same time. This setting prevents that. The reason this setting is necessary is Umbraco internally uses a semaphore to keep multiple instances of Umbraco from accessing the same file, same new cache file, but semaphores don't work across IIS instances of the website. They only work within the domain. So this setting ensures that if it effectively covers for the semaphore and making sure that a second instance of the Umbraco will not start until the first one has fully closed down. This is a SQLDB resource group, just showing that we have live and test instances. Whenever we copy content, say from live to test, we'll delete the test instance and copy the live database to test, so all the settings are in place. And the same when we go from test to live. Likewise on test, we have the same configuration setting overrides. Another one that is potentially useful is the Umbraco use HTTPS. This will ensure that the cookies related to the back office users access only transfer under HTTPS conditions, so it'll stop man-in-the-middle type attacks from accessing your login credentials to the back office. Okay, let's take a look at the setup on Azure Devops. What we can see here is we've created a project, John Blair Web App, to manage the continuous integration, continuous deployment of the JB test and live websites. What we have is a build process, which if we edit, we can see that, well, you can't see from here. Let's take a look at the triggers, and we can see that this build is actually linked to a GitHub repo, which is my own account, and the name of the repo is John Blair, as it's for the John Blair website. The repo is built from the master branch, and if we take a look at the triggers, we can see that continuous integration is being enabled for this repo. So as soon as I check in any content file, then a build will be triggered automatically. And as we can see, the build is actually stored in Azure Pipelines .yaml file, which is also in the repo. So we can actually see that more clearly in Visual Studio. This is the YAML file, and basically the steps involved here are NuGet is used to restore all the packages in the solution. It then triggers MS build to build the solution, and it will then run any tests from test DLL projects that you have in the solution, and then if they pass, it will publish the build artifacts, which in this case is a published website as a zip file. I'll publish that to the artifacts area. There's an additional task that publishes additional artifacts. What I have is some PowerShell scripts that relate to the content release pipelines. So I release them as artifacts to the Azure directory. So if we take a look at the actual build history for this one, if we take an individual build, we can see the steps here where NuGet gets the NuGet set and all the packages, does a build, publish the artifacts, publish pipeline artifacts, and then tidies up. We can click on this to see the actual output of each of the jobs. But then crucially, we can see that there's two artifacts produced as a result of this. First one in the drop folder is the key publish website, and as I was saying, the second one is a couple of PowerShell scripts. One to copy the media, live to test, and test to live. So that's the build pipeline. The build pipeline feeds into a release pipeline. Top release one, which is release GitHub build to JB test and JB live. The other four release pipelines are related to releasing the content between test and live. A content release is effectively a database copy in a media folder copy as an alternative to using Courier. So it's a full content deployment. Take a look at the release pipeline. So what we can see is the build pipeline feeds directly into two stages. Test stage, which is basically an Azure app service deployment to John Blair test, and the second one is the same deployment to the John Blair live website. If we look at the triggers, we'll see that after a build has been successfully done, that will trigger the release to test phrase. If we take a look at the release to live, what we'll see is that there's a pre-deployment trigger that test has to be successful, and also we have one manual trigger that requires a pre-deployment approval, and it specifies me, so an email is sent to say that I need to approve a release to live, and that in essence is the process of releasing to test and live. If we look at the other release pipelines, we can see copying the database between live and test. What we have there is just stops the test web app, deletes the test database, waits 60 seconds and copies the database live to database test database and restarts the test web app. The wait is has been used as a workaround for a problem whereby a database copy would sometimes fail if you delete the database test and then try to recreate it immediately afterwards. There's a conflict. There's been an open issue on that for quite some time, so as a workaround, just introduce a wait, and you can see that the copy database command is just a PowerShell script to copy the database within the same server, John Blair, and we're copying the live database to a test one. So when the test web app is restarted, the database is just being replaced, and so there's no config change needed. And copy database test to live works in the same way. Although as it is live, I put a manual trigger on just to make sure that we want to affect the live environment. It's just a precautionary step. The stages are just the same. When we copy content, it's the database and the media that make up my content release, but I can see circumstances whereby we might just want to pull back, say, the database on its own or the media on its own. So I've separated the tasks out rather than combine them. So typically you'd run one after the other. So we take a look at the copy media. What we see is that it's just a PowerShell script, so copy media test to live, and this is why I included this PowerShell script as part of the Azure artifact release. And if we take a look at that script in Visual Studio, what in effect we're doing here is we're copying the media from the live website back to test. So and the way we do that is we identify the resource groups and the web apps involved. So we're going from the live John Blair resource group web app to the John Blair test resource group and web app. The actual website, as seen with something like FileZilla or on the SEM site, is based at site www.root media. This is a folder that we want to copy, and we do that by zipping the folder up on live, saving it locally, and then uploading it onto test. And the way we do that is we first get the live web app so that we can access the publishing profile of that, as that contains the name and password credentials that are needed in order to zip up the media folder. So we access the username, password, and convert it to base 64, as we want to include this in an authorization header when we invoke a REST method. So what we see is that the SEM site publishes an API that allows us to zip up a directory. You can see that here. So basically the URL is the johnblair.sem.azurewebsites.net/API/zip, and then the source directory is going to be site www.media. So basically we invoke a REST method to zip up the directory, providing our credentials, and we output the zip file just into a local temp zip folder. We then get the credentials of the target website, the destination web app. So we get the publishing profile from the test web app. Again, we form the credential authorization header, and we'll invoke another REST method that will then, which is a put method this time, and it's to the same destination directory on the test site, which is the media folder. We input the temp zip file, and we unzip that into the media folder, and that's how the media is transferred from live to test. So we're just recapping. We identify the live site, the test site, we access credentials, we use the SEM published API to zip up the media folder, saving it into the temp zip file locally. I say locally, that's locally within the build the build machine on Azure, on Devops, not locally on your own PC. So once we have zipped up the live site, we then get the credentials of the test site, and we issue a put request to unzip the media onto test. So with the media and the database copied, we've got full content transference between environments. And the final thing I'd like to point out is on Devops, I initially thought that I had to link a repo into the repo section of the project in order to have it included in the build pipeline. This is not necessary. So unless you want to work with tasks and issues from your repo, you can skip over adding anything into a repo here. The other thing that I got confused about was I expected this artifacts folder to contain the artifacts from the build process, but it had nothing to do with the build artifacts. And to see the build artifacts, you have to look here on as the actual output from the build process. Okay, time for a live demo of continuous integration and deployment. So what we'll do is, in the source code, we'll change the file version number, and so on the test environment we should see it increase hopefully to 14, and similarly on the live environment we should see that increase to 14. After that we'll make a content change. It will just change the home page title, and we'll pull the live content back to test, and we'll have a look at the home page on test then and see if the change came through from using the content pipeline. Okay, let's get started. So Azure Studio, we have the website project, and we'll just increase the version number. So you can see that's now 14. We go to Team Explorer. We'll see that there's now a change. So updated version 14. And we'll check that in. So we'll sync with the GitHub repo. And okay, that should now trigger a build on Azure. So we'll have a look, and there we can see updated version to 14. So our build has started. Okay, I'm just pausing the video occasionally to speed up the process. So we've got all the NuGet packages. We're now doing the build. and we've got a few more tasks to occur after that. So that's publishing the artifacts, which will be the zipped publish website and the content release pipeline scripts. We've skipped test as we've got no test projects configured so far. We're now publishing the website. That's it, so the bill's done. So if we take a look at the release pipeline now, you can see that new release has just been initiated from a successful build. So let's push into the test environment. Okay, we can see that the push to test has succeeded, but the push to live is pending approval. So we'll hold off on pushing to live until we verify that test is fine. So on test, we'll do a refresh. Okay, so that's test updated, and we'll see that version 14 has come through okay. So the change looks good. Let's go back and approve the push to live. So now we see that the job's queued. Job's now in progress. The job's just about finished now, so 4 of the 4 tasks. We can actually look in detail at the progress. So for this we can see that downloaded the artifacts, which were the publish website, and also the content scripts. It's now deploying to the live app service. Okay, we can see that that has now succeeded. So we'll look at the release test and live succeeded. So we just need to verify that now on the live site. So we can see that it's the old version. So let's refresh that page. Okay, that's the live environment updated, and we now see that the version is 14. So the changes have been pushed through. Okay, if we go up to the demo, we want to push the content changes from live back through to test. So what we'll do is we'll remove the exclamation marks from the live site and see that they come through on test. I'll just show you what's on test at the moment. So test content matches live. So we go to live environment. What we'll do is we'll remove the exclamation marks and we'll publish the site. Around that's happening, we'll go to our release pipelines and we'll initiate a copy of the live database to test. Okay, just check that's finished. So we'll get to create a release. And we can track Okay, so we're just looking at the task stages now. So we stopped the test web app. We're going to delete the test database. Okay, we're now waiting for 60 seconds. This is due to, as I said before, when you copy a database, if you delete the target database and immediately recreate it, there seems to be some timing issues. So we'll wait a little bit, and that seems to be a workaround. Okay, we waited a minute. We're now doing the live database copy to test. Okay, that's the copy of the database from live to test. And now we're just going to restart the test web app. Okay, that's the test web app started successfully, and that's the job completed. So we now need to just go to the website, and we're on test. So what we'll do is we'll do a hard reload, and there we see the content has been updated.